Okay, Andrew, good to see you, mate. Thank you for making the time to join us. For the listeners and people watching, for anyone who doesn't know about who Andrew Holland is, about your organisation, what's your background?
Yeah, it's my background. So I've had over 30 years in SEND, so special education needs, disability education.
Yeah.
Whether that's working in pupil referral units, learning centres, special schools, foundation learning departments in colleges. I've kind of always been in these environments, and one of my passions, which has always come out of that, is I always wanted to work with the little ones. I never ever did. I always ended up covering the older ones.
Yeah.
So then when I was with the 16s or the post 19s, so it's always about outcomes. It's all about kind of what they're going to be when they leave, when they leave the school. There's provision, and employability kind of is paramount to that, I think. So I've always had that real passion for getting young people into the world of work.
So for the listeners who haven't heard of you,
yeah,
Send Me to Work is your organisation. That's your baby.
Yes, that's I founded that.
When did you found?
So it must be 3.5 years old. So still quite young. Yeah, still quite young. But it's, as I said, I no longer work in that. I don't work for the young people in that physical sense, but I'm still working for their outcomes. So rather than standing up in front of a group of young people as a teacher, I now kind of stand up and do it in front of a group of employers.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm just teaching to a different audience.
So really your morals and your passion is allowing you to advocate. You're advocating for those young people, that future workforce.
Definitely.
From a different fight.
Yes, exactly. And it's just recognised that actually there was still so much to do. That transition from education to employment is still not seamless. How can we upskill employers? How can we give them the information? How can we give them the education? How can we support them to be more inclusive?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've worked together.
Yeah, lots.
Quite a lot. And as you know, for us, we very much see a lot of the changes that we want to see employers, companies, colleagues implementing.
Yeah.
These are changes which would help every single employee, not just your neurodiverse employees, not just your employees with a disability.
Yeah.
It's about accessibility for everyone, and everywhere.
And it's exciting times. Like I said, I've been in this field now for quite a bit, and it has been sometimes hitting your head against a brick wall.
Do you feel like you've made much of an impact?
We're constantly making progress, but these last couple of years, it really feels like there's something happening. Employers understanding the diversity of neurodiversity, buzzword, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's about people going, oh right, I've got people in my organisation who have different preferences or different learning styles or differences. How can I support them? What can I do to help them? And I think everyone is a bit more aware, and I think it's moving in the right direction.
I feel like there's a lot of potential in what's happening.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you get weighed down with that risk of, is this just going to be another, like I said, another buzzword, another tick box exercise, and all of a sudden all that progress which we've been striving for is going to fall? Or do you feel like this is really the start of meaningful change?
I'm fortunate to have 3 children. Eldest one's 15, youngest one's 10. So I know from my own personal experiences that they see and value the world very differently, and they set their stall out for employment slightly differently. They might look at organisations who have better social value, who are making an impact. For them, they're very au fait with the term neurodiversity. A high number of them associate with with being neurodiverse themselves, and it's very open.
Yeah.
So actually, as they become 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and start entering the workplace, and this hasn't just happened to my children because they're 15, it's happening now for older generations. So the workplaces and the employers are going to have to start taking note and are having to start to adapting, because they are their future workforce. So that's maybe what is also driving it now.
Like you said, there isn't really the same opportunity to kind of look at it and go, I'll come to that eventually, or that doesn't affect us. It's actually something which is very much here now. It's in front of us, and we have to be leading it. How do you do that as an organisation? Because so for somebody to work, is that just yourself, or do you have a team around you?
So it's myself. But we will, in all of the training we deliver, for example, whether it's online, whether it's in person, whether it's network support workshops, we will always invite a guest speaker in with that lived experience, living experience, an expert by experience, because that's part of the mission, to help employers understand more. It helps break down those misconceptions, or it helps challenge those stereotypes that people might have, or those biases. And that's really important to the mission of Send Me to Work, that we work with these specialist partners, we bring people in, and that improves the quality of the training that we offer as well. In terms of, I'm just going to talk about digital accessibility. We were talking just now, weren't we? Like, digital accessibility is inbuilt now into these massive Apple, Microsoft, Google organizations. How do we let employers know about that? Because it can better support their neurodiverse colleagues who are already in their workforce, let alone when they're thinking about recruiting future people in their workforce.
I mean, I love the fact that when I look at my team that I have around me, especially with the volunteering pathway, we've seen clients come through into the volunteering pathway, transitioning into becoming a paid member of our team, having really grown as individuals, as an employee, and also grown the Census Project with their input and their ideas.
Like creativity, just a different way of thinking, just bringing special skills and qualities.
It's remarkable, and you can see sometimes the level of demand that they place upon themselves to be better than anyone else, because they feel like they have to be. And when you approach it with compassion and nurture and empathy and trust, and you can see, sometimes you see people just step back and go, oh my god, what? Like, okay, so I didn't get that done. Okay, so how are you going to prioritise your time to get it done next week? Okay, it's fine, we'll work on it. What can I do to help you? So what are you doing to help other companies actually get on board with using that and making that part of their day-to-day running?
Less so on the AI, but if we just go back to that digital accessibility thing, it's just looking at, maybe like this, how you communicate using your social media tools. It's all in there. So every time you upload that photo, have you put your alt text in? Every time you upload that video, have you made sure that you've put your closed captions on? Have you edited your closed captions?
So as an employer, effectively they could be losing potential talent, potential recruits, customers,
supply chains,
new leads, everything, just because they're not thinking about how they're digitally accessible.
Digitally, and we have to think about disability in the UK. There's over 16 million disabled people in the UK alone. What's there, 60, 70 million now? That's a high number of the population. Not every one of those people or disabled people or persons with a disability, they're not all going to associate with needing to have this screen reader kind of access. But actually it's the mindset. Are we kind of open to inclusion? And digital accessibility is a great way to kind of start doing that.
So where can employers go to learn about digital accessibility?
They can come to some of our sessions, our workshops. You can do some of our training. You can go online, research it yourself. You can look at the WCAG, which is the Website Compliance Accessibility Guidelines. The European Accessibility Act is having a bit of a revamp or an update June this year. So watch this space for that, because I think that's going to make some changes. Talk to your web designer. Who's doing design work. When you send that PDF or that flyer, has your designer put in the structure to make it fully accessible? If you're looking at Adobe, it's all in there. Are you using Canva? Actually Canva's great for putting in accessibility features, but it doesn't translate the design structure very well into other documents. So stick with Google, stick with Word, make sure you're doing accessibility checkers when you're there, before you're converting to PDFs, for example. That's PowerPoints as well. All of it. We're always sending out. And I think what's important, once you get into the mindset, now when I build a PowerPoint or some slides, I do it with accessibility inbuilt, because then you go to check it at the end and you're like, oh my God, this is such a big task. Actually, just change the structure, make sure every title, every heading, make sure every time you drop in that new picture, you just whack in the old text there and then. So when you get to the end, you use the accessibility checker, you've only got 3 or 4 things. And it's just embedding that into your everyday practice.
When we think about, say, neurodiverse employees, how can employers create a positive experience for their neurodiverse employees?
Like you've mentioned before, it's about having that open conversation. It's about, how can I help? What can I do? Is there anything that I can? All these little things which just make life that little bit easier, and that's all it's about. It's all we're trying to achieve. We're trying to make people feel more included, and we want them to be able to succeed as best as possible.
I talk a lot with my team about a sense of belonging, and a sense of purpose. And for me, I think I found a lot of that when I started work. Work was a huge part of feeling like I fitted in. It was also a huge part of my early career of feeling like I really didn't fit in. Feeling like, oh my God, how the hell does anyone make friends at work? How do you gel with your colleagues? It's a real transition for anyone, especially if you're neurodiverse, especially if you're if you're a person who's disabled, you're potentially going to find that a lot harder to start with.
But if you've got an open culture, and if you're having the conversations from that recruitment process, if you're setting your stall out from day one, then those conversations become much easier.
So when we think about this movement where businesses are going, obviously you said you've got 3 children yourself.
Yes.
How does that make you feel thinking about your children stepping into this
it's funny you say that. So Daisy, my middle daughter, is now 13. She had a great primary school. She struggled with her transition to secondary school, and it was like she was presenting with anxiety, or her teacher was saying she doesn't like school, she doesn't want to be here, and we were a bit like, what? Like every morning, she's up, clothed, dressed, out of the house, not really a fuss. And what we had to bring in some specialist help. We weren't quite sure what was going on. She was picking her fingernails. She was anxious. Of course, she was anxious. And it translated that she has a DLD, which is a developmental language delay. When she was 6 weeks old as a baby, she was admitted at the hospital for potential meningitis. The test never came back true, but she was treated for, and we didn't realise at the time, but I think she was pretty touch and go. I think it was quite serious, but we were 6-week baby, you need to get to hospital, okay, we're there. So there's always been that in your mind, always been that in your mind. And even when she was learning to read, you get those books, and it's the same sound on every page, and the other two would be like, it's cat, next page, it's cat, next page, it's fat. Daisy had to spell out every single letter on every single page. That retention bit just didn't go in. It was quite interesting. I remember sitting there on the floor like, this is, why is she not translating page after page? You know what those books are like, So, and I'd just tell a story about, like, she plays football, like, we leave in the house, and you're like, right, Daisy, come on, you got 5 minutes, we need to go. I told you, right? You know, you hear nothing.
Yeah.
You're shouting up at the top of the stairs, right? What are you doing? Come on. You know, she come downstairs and she like have like one shin pad. Like, what, Daisy? Seriously? Like, I told you get ready 10 minutes ago. We're gonna be late. Yeah. Just bombarding her again and again with all this language. Yeah. She couldn't do it. She couldn't process the language, which enabled her to do what you're asking. Whereas now it's like, okay, she's got a DLD. It's like, Daisy, 10 minutes, football boots, shin pads, water bottle, coat, end of. What's she going to do? She's going to get herself ready. So, and I think we try and empower her with her teachers who really break it down and who she learns from. Because sadly, she's got teachers who don't teach her, I want to say a rude word, but they don't teach her anything. Yeah, because they don't understand how her brain works. And we're trying to empower her because she's going to have to explain that, or she's going to have to develop her own systems for when she enters the workplace. Yeah. She's going to have to say, actually, I might not be able to contribute verbally to a Teams meeting unless I've planned for it, or I've prepped for it, or I've seen resources, or I know exactly what the actions are, or I know what the outcomes are, or, you know what I mean? Like, and we've worked with people already. It's like, oh, he doesn't talk much in Teams meetings. Well, why not? No, he's just shit scared that you're going to ask him for a 5 or 10 minute update, because actually that's not how his brain works. That's not how he's processing. That's why he's not saying anything. He's not contributing. Yeah. So bring in a level of quality and get organised and make it better, because your business is going to benefit as well. So I've gone off then a little bit about Daisy and how she will need to be supported, but that's why I brought in that story there.
Thank you for sharing it, and like,
not a problem.
That's very close to home.
Sure.
That's something which, like you say, that's quite a significant thing to learn to manage.
Sure.
For yourself. Especially adapting into the workplace, especially if you've already seen it with, say, role models like teachers not doing it. Do you think that there needs to be more work there to try and transition?
Yeah, definitely potentially. It's just having that. It's very difficult for teachers. I'm not going to go into the education thing. I've been in education for so long. They've got to pass through. You know, it's very difficult. I understand the challenges. One thing I would say is that when Daisy was like 2 or 3 or 4, really young, she'd kind of just be like there, you may be feeling it a little bit, and somehow she'd like, look up at you like, Dad, you're right. And she just had this like sixth sense of like, and you'd be able to, and she just knows, she does know. It's kind of strange. She's just tuned in. She can feel emotion. She can sense when maybe things aren't quite right. You know, she can sense that you're feeling a bit down. You know, so we talk about that education, that language processing. Actually, what skill would you rather have? You know, do you rather be in tune with people, the human race, you know, others, rather than being able to, you know, read, write?
Now, I actually did make this question a little bit more generic. Because I think it's a real valuable one to think about as a whole workforce, as a whole team, not just my neurodiverse employees, not just my employees with a disability, just actually everyone. What would your advice be around performance?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because people have to perform. I might just use, going off target a little bit in terms of neurodiversity, but I might just think about that kind of support internship model. And if you had an intern working with a host business, you want that intern to perform as everyone else. Let's say that business was a manufacturing company, and performance was based on the product line, the shop floor. We build products, we make things, and we test them. And when we get to testing station, 98% have to be I'll say 98% have to be 100%, but actually 98% of those products have to be 100%. So 2% can go wrong. If you've got someone in that role and they're not building those products to 98%, they've got performance issues. So then going back to that support intern, the job coach would go in, for example, to help them to get up to 98%. So if that's your business and you've got someone on the shop floor and they're not building that product to how it should be, are you going to just let them carry on? Or are you going to go in and try and support them and give them the skills so they can meet your criteria of 98%? So what choice do you have? What are you going to choose to do? You're going to choose to invest in them and get them to where you want them to be, or are you going to just let them fall by the wayside and go, I'm sorry, you've got performance related issues and you're no longer needed? It goes back to that leadership model or that management model. You know, do you want to be do you want to be that micromanager person? Do you want to stifle, or do you want to enable people and let them grow? You know, and I think they're the kind of different models out there, aren't they?
I mean, I think for me, I actually had to really learn because there was so much passion and so much invested into setting up the company, the brand, and I looked at it and realised actually. I've been holding onto all of this like this. It's like let it
go.
And I was like,
gotta let it go. Just
but it actually took for me to get ill and to not be able to do the job.
Yeah.
For me to have to let it go and be like, shit, I'm out. Yeah. I'm gone. I'm not. I'm not doing this anymore because I literally couldn't. It wasn't a choice. But then I had to just completely demonstrate that trust, which I did have. I just didn't realise that my actions weren't actually demonstrating it. Yeah. And it took that experience for me to really see actually how I was like as a leader. Because I thought I was doing up here, and I looked at it back and I was like, oh. But I think life experience. I think interactions with our team.
But like you said, do you want to coach people? Do you want to mentor them? Do you want to get the best out of them? There are all those kind of leadership qualities which. You know, maybe the youth of today, like that's what they're aspiring to kind of work for organisations who have those, have those ideologies and passions and thoughts. And
I always say I think it's a model which is completely translatable from education to employer. That your role really is to nurture them to feel safe and comfortable and secure to actually achieve amazing things.
Sure.
To inspire them to feel like they are capable of so much more than they've ever dreamed possible. Yeah. But then the syllabus when you're in education, or the model and the team structure itself and the product that you've got itself will do the teaching. It will do the work and get someone where they need to go. Effectively, your job is just believing in them, really. And a lot of the time, you're letting people figure out for themselves. Yeah. It's a lot about what someone can do for themselves. So how can employees do it for themselves to feel less excluded, to feel less misunderstood in their workplace? How can employees go about changing that?
I think employees always think they're going to do it wrong, or they're not. They might mess it up, or it's just about starting somewhere and trying to make the changes. It's trying to make those little steps of progress, however small. Getting training, you know, looking at what's out there, looking at schemes, trying to kind of put in some plans, looking at that baseline. You know, what is your, in terms of accessibility, what is it like for your digital? You know, what is it like for your physical? What is it like for your culture? You know, how does your business really feel? You know, what do your customers think of you? What do your supply chains think of you? And that kind of baseline goes, right, this is where we're at, and where do we want to get to? You might never get there, I get that, but along that journey you're going to be putting things in place which is going to make it better. And that's what it's all about, really.
So if employees really investing in actually everything that the business is doing, and connect themselves with their team and with their employer,
I think there's that kind of mindset where it's like, well, I can just sweep them the carpet, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, if I don't address it, it's fine. I'm just going to carry on as normal.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think you can do that anymore. I think you need to get out there, embrace it. You need to learn about it. You need to find out how. and the world and society is evolving and changing all the time. So you either want to be a business, organisation, employer who moves with the times and changes, or you're going to get slightly stuck. And at some point, it's going to probably bite you on the what's it, because you haven't embraced it when other people have.
I think it's really, really important that actually we consider how we're feeling as a person.
Sure.
Because, like you said about productivity, you know, that 98%, if that's the target, if that's where we need to be, but you've got to see someone working at 60%.
Yeah.
Why are they at 60%?
Yeah.
Are they demoralised? Are they feeling isolated? Are they feeling like, they're struggling, they're burning out, but nobody's seeing it, nobody's getting it, and they don't know how to speak up? I think there's a huge responsibility on that team member themselves to start learning how to step up as well. You've got to be able to speak up for yourself, and that's a really, really hard skill to learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Finding your way of being able to even recognise burnout for yourself or things like that. Within my team, one of them turned around recently, and they were struggling. And I had a conversation with them and said, "Right, you're taking the next week off. You're not coming in until you're squared away." I've checked in with them since, and actually they're feeling loads better. But
you have to remember that disability encompasses those long-term health conditions and mental health. So again, it has to be that open conversation. We have to be talking about it. We have to be, aware of it.
Do you think it needs to be from a disability or a neurodiversity, either focus, or does it just need to be a transition of the ethos of how we work with our
I think
team?
It just needs to be open.
Yeah.
It needs to be, like you said, you've got that open relationship, that culture. You want to look out for that person. You want to make sure that they're going to be their better off at home rather than being at work. What's that going to give you? They're probably going to be with you longer, aren't they? You're going to have that better trust. You've got a better working relationship. They're going to be more productive when they do come back. So it does, and we have to be really mindful now of well-being and wellness and how people and how work and family life and impacts the whole spiel.
Yeah, definitely. It's been amazing to talk to you, Andrew.
It's been really good.
Have you got any events coming up that you could tell everyone about?
Well, we do, like yesterday, for example, we did our network support workshop for disability confidence, scenarios, problems, real life things that people might experience. So, had people attending online. We do our monthly lunch and learn, so we've always got a different topic where we talk about unconscious bias, or we talk about disability in the media and how it's portrayed and how your workplaces might be. And we just do a monthly digital drop-in as well, so anyone can kind of find out about these little tips and tricks, these hints about how to make your digital stuff like slightly more accessible. So
that's fantastic.
And then of course we do our training as well within organisations and businesses. So.
Where can people go to find information about the lunch and learns and your training and all the things you're doing?
They can follow us on Eventbrite or social media, and obviously our website as well. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Been lovely talking to you.
Love talking to you, mate.
Thank you very much.